going on? It's SFT. We're talking about the college football playoff. We're going to get into the first four games that consisted of SMU versus Penn State, Indiana versus Notre Dame, Georgia versus Clemson, and Ohio State versus Tennessee. But we're going to start off with the first game and how underwhelming the first game was. Quite a dominant performance, a flat-out dominant performance from Notre Dame, and we expected it. We saw Indiana versus Ohio State, how they looked. Their coach came before the game talking about, oh, we beat up top 25 teams. Brother, you got beat up. Your issue is a lack of talent, yes. A lack of offensive quality, yes. A lack of offensive line quality. But it's a lack of coaching, man. You went to that game, struggled to stop the run, struggled to throw the football, became extremely one-dimensional, just a poor offense overall. And if you were watching the game like I was, scoring, 14 out of your 17 points in the last damn near 4 minutes, when the game's 27-3, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. The score was 27-3 in my eyes. They thoroughly dominated you, and they made you one-dimensional. They made you look bad, and they raised a lot of questions about why you were allowed in the college football playoffs. But we're going to get to the next game. Similar thing. Penn State versus SMU. SMU going up to Pennsylvania. Cold weather, struggling. Their quarterback struggling, man. 2 pick sixes early on, and the game was pretty much done. The score finishes 38-10. They scored the 7 points in the final quarter. They damn near got shut out, actually. They got shut out 28-0 in the first half. And similar thing. What quality competition have you played against? Clemson. That's really it. You haven't really been tested, and to Clemson, you lost. I can give you a little bit of props because you came back 17 down, but that's just because of how bad Clemson was in that championship final. But we're going to move on to Clemson and how they looked against Texas. Excuse me if I said Georgia previously. It's Texas versus Clemson. Good game. That's a good game to watch overall. I thought Clemson, I was very impressed with the fact that they came out hot early. They scored that touchdown early. He did a little celebration like this. I loved it. And I thought to myself, we might have a good game, but at the line of scrimmage is going to be the conversation today. Quality, talent. They thoroughly dominated them at the line of scrimmage, and they ran the football like the coach didn't know no play other than to run the football. All they were doing was running the football. Passing was barely an option at times, and they were extremely successful. Busted 2 70-yard touchdown runs. Had a field day with them, 138-24. It's a quality win from Texas. Questionable defense at times, but you're not playing against a bad Clemson team. They're not the best. They don't deserve to be in the playoffs, but they're not a bad Clemson team. And definitely one of the more important and definitely one of the more impressive performances we've seen in the playoffs from opponents from their home. And now we're done, but yeah, it's the best one we saw, because later on we got Tennessee going to Ohio State. Cold weather. They've definitely never played in that. I was so curious to see what type of Tennessee is going to show up. Is it going to be the Tennessee that is going to be one-dimensional, struggling to throw the ball downfield, struggling to push the ball downfield? They're not a great intermediate route team. Between that 20 to even 25 or that 10 to 15, they're not a great intermediate team, and they're not able to work the sticks. Their run game was struggling. They were getting dominated at the line of scrimmage. They were struggling to stop the run. A lot of explosive plays. The receivers were overwhelmed, and it was different than the games between SMU and Penn State, Indiana and Notre Dame. Now, I saw a little bit of fight back from Tennessee, no different than I saw some fight back with Clemson, but you're just being overwhelmed by better talent, better matchups, and they have your number the entire game. They're running the football at will. They have a better offensive line than you, and wow, SEC getting its butt handed to them. You know, we're talking about a Tennessee team that beat Alabama at home, which is a big difference, okay? At home makes a big difference. We're talking about a Tennessee team that went to Georgia and looked decent in that first half until the second half came through and got steamrolled. We're talking about a Tennessee team that had a late win against Florida. Yes, you can say Florida's not the best team. Their starting quarterback was injured, but they're not a bad football team either. We're talking about a Tennessee team that beat up on Vanderbilt that last game after they're down 14-0. We're not talking about a bad Tennessee team. And they got thoroughly handled by Ohio State. I thought Ohio State, what a great response to that embarrassing Michigan game, and something to be proud of, and some type of juice to carry into that Oregon game to take care of business against them too. I have Ohio State as a favorite in that game, but we got to get to the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is the concept of the playoff and what I envisioned it to be, okay? When I thought about the playoff, I thought about rewarding teams that play tough schedules because they're going to be battle tested, and taking opportunities away from teams, with all due respect, that have easier schedules. Once they get to the playoffs, they're bound to get blown out. They're bound to get their butts handed to them. It's bound to happen. Yes, you can look at Tennessee game saying, no, that's not true. That's one. Clemson, you went to Texas. You put up a fight, but weren't good enough. But these are teams that played tough schedules and showed a little bit more of a fight, a lot more of a fight than I saw from a team like Indiana, a team like SMU. And the benefits of a bowl game is you can find out where you are as a team. I don't want to see teams killing their schedule, getting to the playoffs, and then realizing they're not able to challenge those championship level teams. There are different type of teams in the playoffs right now. There's the championship level teams, which consists of the top, I would say top 5. There's the middle range in terms of, I'll include Ohio State in that. There's the middle range of teams that include teams that, got to the playoffs. They're not championship level yet. Tennessee, you clearly see Tennessee is not a championship level team yet. You're seeing a playoff team versus a championship level team. Big difference. And then teams that scrape their way into the playoffs. SMU's, Indiana. And I would have loved to see a team like South Carolina, man. What an impressive year they've had. They've shown the toughness. They've shown the ability to go up against tough teams. They would have been a perfect team to go up to Penn State. They would have been a perfect team to play against Texas. What a great game that would be. They would have been a great team to play against a team like Ohio State. Tennessee deserved that spot. But Ole Miss, you tell me Ole Miss is not a playoff team. And one thing I really don't like is I don't like when people keep saying things like, oh, if you guys just won your games, you must not watch the SEC. If you keep saying that if you won your games, the SEC is extremely difficult. Like, you must not watch the games. You must not analyze the quality, the talent that's on that football field. Ole Miss would give Notre Dame a run for their money. Ole Miss potentially could beat Ohio State. Ole Miss is a good football team. They don't have the best coaching, Lane Kiffin, in terms of running the football and establishing the run, but Ole Miss is a good football team. South Carolina is a good football team, man. Alabama deserves to miss the playoffs. I'm a big fan of that concept. So there are a couple of teams that are not championship level teams. I'll tell you that. They're not championship level teams, but they're quality playoff teams, and they should have went through. One thing that really scares me about that conversation of you should have just won your games is it tells the teams next year and the year after that, when you're creating your schedule, don't go and play against the tougher teams. When you don't play against tougher teams, you don't know where you line up, and you're just bound for a first round exit. You're bound for it. You're bound to be wiped the floor with, I would say, somebody can always say Tennessee, they got the floor wiped with them. Tennessee's a little different, man. Tennessee has been battle tested. They just weren't the better team that day. They could have handled the pressure. They could have handled the quality of Ohio State, going up to Ohio State, a team that had to prove something at home. First playoff game ever. Overwhelmed. They got drowned, man. And that's what happens. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. People say you're biased to the SEC. I am. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I've seen this team so much play against good football teams. I've seen this team put up far better performances. This could have been a poor night or a team that simply overwhelmed them. But I'm scared about how the future is going to look with the college football playoff. So you look at some of the teams right here that we have in the playoff or around the playoff next year. We're going to have Ohio State playing against Penn State, Michigan, and Texas in the first game of the season. So Texas is going to be first game of the season. That's going to be amazing. Michigan's going to be playing against Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. Oregon, just Penn State. We're going to see how Oregon looks. Yes, they played against Ohio State this year, but we're going to see how they look against Ohio State the second time. I have Ohio State winning this football game, but even next year, Oregon, you're telling me you couldn't play against better competition than just Penn State? We look at other teams, Clemson, LSU, and USC in terms of University of Southern Carolina, but outside of that, no tough games. Only 2, ACC, that's it. And then you look at SMU, no tough games again. Indiana, I already mentioned Oregon and Penn State. So we're looking at a group of teams where we're probably going to see them next year. And they're not going against the toughest schedules. And they're not going to be battle tested coming playoff time. We're not going to know that they have the quality to get in. Not that they deserve to get in. I hate that word. They deserve to get in. So you're telling me as long as I win my games, I'm good enough to get in? That's it? And then when I get in, I just get blown out? No, you need to play into better competition in the regular season. And we need to see how you line up against these guys so we can then know, okay, you're ready for the playoffs. The playoffs shouldn't be a place where teams just get to say, yes, we congratulations, we made the playoffs. No, the playoffs is the start of it. The playoffs is okay, we're going to go win a championship. I don't know why we have teams that are grateful to get into the playoffs as playoff teams. We should just have playoff level teams that can win a game. Teams like South Carolina, teams like Ole Miss. I feel like Ole Miss, they played against a really tough Florida Gators team in Florida, there's a lot of teams I think I could have got through this playoffs. It would look so much better. But in terms of the next couple of games, for my predictions at least, I got Ohio State beating Oregon. I have Texas beating Arizona State quite confidently. I have Notre Dame beating Georgia. Georgia was a freshman quarterback. I have Notre Dame beating. They should beat Georgia. And then we get to Penn State versus Boise State. I got Penn State winning that game. But outside of that, thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe. Take care. Peace.